Hi, welcome to Get Pod Local.
I'm Joey Cade, and if I were going to run for office, it would definitely be something very local. I'm currently serving as a precinct chair, which is an elected office. So the only thing really I think I'd ever run for in addition to that would be justice of the peace.
I would be mayor.
Ooh, yeah, I'd love to have you as my mayor.
Yeah, I'd be mayor. The only thing that has stopped me is I match energy.
Yeah.
That's not a good quality of having a mayor. You want somebody that's a little, sits back in the cut, feels out the room. But if somebody comes into me hot, I'm coming in hot.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like, I see where you're going.
I'm gonna
go further.
Bump it up.
Yeah. And if you come in petty, there is no level of pettiness that I will not reach. I'm not petty at the start. It's when I receive
if they
petty.
bring it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm like,
yeah.
Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Okay. On today's show, we are speaking to a bunch of smart people, like the president of the Dallas Young Dems, Leal, and Jasmin Flores, who's the vice chair of the Dallas County Democrats.
Yep, and we're going to discuss all the propositions on the Dallas City ballot and answer what is a prop and what is a city charter.
Speaking of our many props on the Dallas City ballot, we will also be speaking to David de la Fuente about how props even got on the ballot.
Tell me what you It's been interesting from the Young Dems perspective because two of our board members were on the Charter Commission. And so it's been interesting to hear their perspective about it. Really, the three toxic ones are ST and U. And this is Project 2025 on the local level. This is a right-wing, highly financed, billionaire-backed, Ken Paxton-backed attempt to take over our local government.
That was Leal talking about two board members of the Dallas Young Dems who served on the Dallas City Charter Commission.
Oh, just like our guest, David de la Fuente. We recently caught up with David as well, and he broke down what a city charter is and how props play into it.
So the last time we changed our city charter was 2014. But in Dallas, we have a charter review process by which we are not required to send anything to voters, but we are required to open up the charter for review and see if there's any changes we either need to or want to make to the charter.
So basically, a city charter is like the local version of the Constitution. And every 10 years, we get to update it.
Yep, or add to it.
Yeah, modify it in some way. And because this is an every 10 years thing, that means that some of the stuff won't be as relevant to those in office right now as it may be for those in office a decade from now.
Right. So a raise for the city council from $60,000 to $90,000 sounds like a huge jump, but the cost of living for Dallas will definitely be more in 10 years. So we're future-proofing for people from now on to 10 years from now.
Yeah, and the mayor moving from $90K to $110K isn't for this mayor per se, right? But it's for mayors down the road. So if you have beef with the current mayor, don't take it out on the future less flip-floppy mayors down the road.
Who has beef with the mayor? First order of business, no flip-flopping after you have become mayor. Let's start there.
And so I think that's number one, right? We believe in pay equity, right? We believe fair wages right? as a party, but also that also matters to our elected officials as well.
It democratizes that office,
And this is for the city charter. So this is like 10 years that we're talking about. So it's not necessarily, if you have beef with, the city council or the mayor.
They got this, fancy new Republican mayor, and they've got Alan West as the chair.
When the city council's asking for a raise, do they normally combine it with the mayor, or does he realize him switching parties is probably unpopular? And we're probably like, you want a raise, sir? Yeah, I got beef. Why are you looking at me like that?
Everyone has beef with the mayor. Let's jump back into our conversation with Leal and this massive list of props. Why don't we talk about the propositions on the City of Dallas ballots?
Yeah. Man, there's only 18 of them.
I know.
That truly is the impetus of this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I every time I go in to vote, I'm just like, I gotta read all this.
Yeah.
And like I went
It's
to art.
gobbledygook.
Yeah, I went to art school. I didn't go to law school.
Right.
Like I gotta sit here and like figure out what they're trying to say. And I'm smart, and I'm like, all right, where's the verb? Okay. Let's break down this sentence to try to
Can
figure it
someone
out.
translate this into English?
Yeah, exactly.
Thankfully, someone will translate it into English, right? Young Dems will put out endorsements. Other groups will. League of Women Voters usually make a great guide that will talk through all the props.
Right.
But yeah, you said that you and Young Dems have been voting and trying to come up with your whole endorsement list?
Yeah, I mean, we have it. It's just really scheduling the vote. I mean, it's been interesting from the Young Dems perspective because two of our board members were on the Charter Commission.
Oh.
Yeah, and so they helped draft and iron out all of this language that, that we're seeing now. I think if we're going to talk about all 18, it's really the three toxic ones are ST and U.
Yeah.
It's easy to remember. They're the last three. I kind of view this as Project 2025 on the local level. So this is, sort of a right-wing, highly financed, billionaire-backed, Ken Paxton-backed attempt to take over our local government. That they know it's in this blue city. They got this fancy new Republican mayor, and they've got Alan West as the chair. Let's try to strong arm and control this source of blue votes and blue energy in the state of Texas. But, in short, it's really just controlling our finances. The biggest one is that says the city of Dallas would immediately have to hire about 900 more police officers.
Yeah, that we do not have budgeted.
Yeah. What if we don't have the money for it? Well, you better find it somewhere, money going to roads or schools, whatever it may be.
Do you know, does the current charter specify that we have to have 3,100?
No.
That's just how many we have.
That's just
so
how many we
currently
have.
the charter wouldn't specify you need to have this many.
Yeah.
Because that seems like a strange...
It's an arbitrary
why
number,
would that
right?
work like that?
And they want to do it in a way that they're trying to make us, they know if we're forced to spend all this money on something like that, we're not going to have money to spend on our other priorities. And then on top of that, S&T basically provide mechanisms to say, hey, if the city doesn't do this, then we can sue the city. And then there's a survey mechanism in there to try to, that they can game to, to sort of hold the city leaders accountable. But really, they're just strong arming our democratic local government. And then the rest, I would expect the Young Dems as a group to come out for all the rest. Prop R is probably the most exciting to decriminalize marijuana in the city of Dallas. Some people are like, wait, didn't we already do that? No, not officially. The DA said that they would not prioritize those types of cases. However, they still happen.
Well, they're still arrested every day because the police still are taking their action.
They're still arrested, or it's used for probable cause for something else.
Yeah.
Right? There's all sorts of stuff. It's a very ineffective and, messy way to try to decriminalize marijuana. I think it's really exciting. Hopefully it helps drive turnout as well this cycle. They've done it in other cities.
Yeah.
In Texas already.
What are the other cities that have decriminalized it?
Yeah, Austin is the largest, I think.
Yeah.
And then there were some smaller ones in that area. But, I think we're going to do it here. Ken Paxton, did try to sue, and that failed for him. We're just talking about decriminalization. We're not even talking about legalization.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about that.
We just don't want people getting arrested.
Yeah,
over it.
and it's crazy. I mean, we live in a country where, over 60% of the states have already legalized it in some form or another. Even here in the state of Texas, there have been Republicans that have introduced bills to legalize marijuana in the state of Texas, like years ago.
It's also one of those weird ones that Republicans mostly agree with as well.
Yeah.
So it's just because they want it for commercial reasons, right? They're like, these are great businesses.
Businesses, whether there's personal liberty there, and then you realize we don't have state income taxes is a huge source of revenue, potentially. I mean, look at what Colorado has done, and they earmarked it straight for public education.
Yeah. I think they said in Colorado they made like 3 times what they expected.
Proposition C, is to increase pay for city council and the mayor of Dallas. So currently, city council member makes $60,000 a year. The mayor makes $80,000. They are trying to increase that so that city council members will make $90,000 and the mayor will make $110,000. Now I know pay for our elected officials isn't on its face particularly popular.
My knee-jerk reaction was like, why?
Exactly.
What are they doing? Why would they get a raise?
Yeah.
Exactly. I do think it's important. I do think it's a good idea. 90,000, that is more than the average income, but it's not an exorbitant income. And I think it's important for working class people to be able to have these jobs. I mean, that's the same thing, in the write-ups, like I think at the Dallas Morning News or something, like, well, it used to be unpaid. And it's like, well, doesn't that sound so virtuous? Yeah, our public officials should just be unpaid.
Volunteers.
Well, but in practice, what does that mean? That means rich people can do that job.
Yeah.
Right? And that's it. I mean, it's the same thing in the state legislature. Our state legislators get $7,200 a year.
I'm sorry.
$7,200 a year is what all of our Rep Pliza, who was here, $7,200 a year is what they're paid.
$7,000 a year.
They spend most of the year going back and forth to Austin.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
7 comma?
Correct.
$7,200 a year.
And the senators isn't like 11 or it's 9?
Yeah, it's a little more.
It's a little bit more.
And
but
so,
it's,
to go out and, am I unhappy with everything our state legislators do? No,
Right,
obviously
no,
not. But like
right.
people like us, working class people, teachers and,
Yeah.
anyone should be able to go and have that job and have a living wage doing it, I mean, so anyway, obviously our city council gets paid a little bit more than that, but,
A little bit more.
yeah, I mean, it's
72.
off a low bar.
Yeah.
These people do run, what is it? What would be the 9th largest city in the United States? I mean, I'm not saying they should make hundreds of thousands, a $250,000, and not anywhere near there.
What do you think about, because I've heard someone say that maybe, if we're not paying them, we just have to assume there's corruption, right? Because if they're not getting paid,
Right.
how else are they affording to live?
I think I
So
saw that.
it's kind of an assumption built in.
Right. I think I saw that as an argument against the pay raise in the Dallas Morning News, because they were like, well, most of the council members have other jobs anyway. And it's like, do we want that?
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Do we want our elected officials being like, man, I'm really hurting for money right now? Like,
Yeah.
who
Or-
wants to give me some money?
Or I can't vote because I have a shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we want them to be there. We want them in their districts, right?
So
Yeah.
that's a big, I do think, at a city of our level, that our city council and our city leaders can afford to be paid a little more. They're still making far, far less than the city manager, or the police chief, or any of these other people. I think our state reps need to be paid more. Our school boards are unpaid.
Oh, those positions are totally unpaid.
The school board positions, it's an elected position. People have to spend their money to win these races, and it pays zero.
Whoa.
It pays nothing. And they run our school system. I mean, and so you wonder why,
Yeah, no one.
these our public education is in danger or captured by, these privatizers or these corporate ed reformers and stuff. I mean,
Yeah, because that's one of the places where we often don't have a Dem running. To run in that
or
race.
even if you have a Dem, education politics is weird in that, there are bad Dems on it and good Rs on it. And it's really hard to tell who's going to be what sometimes. But there are all these nonprofit industrial complexes, they call it, these corporate education reformers that will go and drop $100,000, to their favorite candidate to run a school board race, that's unpaid position. Who's
Yeah.
going to have $100,000 to beat that or whatever? So,
Yeah.
That's why those races go unchallenged a lot of times.
Yeah.
And they're so important.
Exactly. If there is a good candidate, they'll add another candidate and force a runoff. And then in the runoff, they really pour all the money into it.
Yeah.
And so, we need to make sure these jobs are paying living wages. I know it's not the most popular idea. Most of our elected officials aren't, on average, super popular these days. But I think sort of counterintuitively, making sure that they're well paid, we'll get our money's worth. We'll get what we pay for out of it.
And we'll entice other people to start running. Yeah.
Yeah.
Normally, when the city council is asking for a raise, do they normally combine it with the mayor, or does he realize him switching parties is probably unpopular, and we're probably like, you want a raise, sir?
That's a good question. I mean, this is in the charter, so it's something they only do once every 10 years. So
Oh, okay.
they might, I imagine, maybe since it's like only 10-year increments, they're probably like, let's address it all at once.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would assume.
Okay.
I'm saying vote yes on Prop C, knowing that our current flip-flop mayor is going to get a raise.
Yeah.
It's not about him personally. It's about the institution and the future
Yeah.
of the city.
Yeah.
But Prop D is also the next one. Really, really important and, doesn't sound very sexy, but it's getting rid of May elections and moving them to November in the off-cycle years.
Mm-hmm.
So non-presidential years instead of having these elections in May.
Yeah.
Because,
Where like 3%
yeah,
of the city will vote.
yeah,
Right.
3, maybe 5 if we're lucky.
Yeah, 5
You know?
if we're lucky. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
insane.
It's insane. And so we can't have our city government run by people that is determined by 3% of voters that are going to show up,
Agreed.
100%.
Yeah.
So, so Prop D is also, I think, very important. Prop E, the next one, is for term limits. We have city council members who are term limited and can't run again. So they're like, wait, don't we have term limits? But no, the way that the current charter is written, it's just consecutive. So I've been here 4 terms. I've hit my max, right? You can do, so if you're a city council member, you can do 4 2-year terms, 8 years, boom. Now I'm term limited. I can't run again. Under the current city charter, I could just wait a cycle and come back and run again.
And then
Same
do
thing
4 more years.
for mayor or whatever.
Or 4 more cycles.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So Prop E would say, no, you've got your 8 years and that's it. And that's total.
We're
So-
got-
Thank you for
yeah.
your service.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, there's a lot of good stuff in this list of 18. Maybe the last one that I would call out would be Proposition I, which reduces the requirements to launch a referendum. So, for those that don't know, right, it's like a ballot initiative. Some of these got on here because of ballot initiatives. Saying, hey, if you want to put something to the voters of Dallas, you need to get X amount of signatures in X amount of time or meet certain requirements, and now it will go up to a vote. And so right now, that's extremely high. I remember, speaking of our mayor, when he switched parties 4 months after he was reelected as a presumed Democrat, a lot of people talked about, how do we recall him? What do we do about this?
Yeah.
Basically, that threshold would have meant that we would have to get 100,000 signatures in 60 days.
Yeah, in 60 days.
Oh my God.
60 days, 100,000 verified signatures, right? So now you're looking at 130 plus signatures, maybe 150,000 signatures. That's just comical. That's just not going to happen. The threshold is a little bit lower when you want to do something for the charter, which you only get a 10-year opportunity to do that. That's the method that they used for the weed decriminalization.
Yeah.
But I think we should make it easier for people to, to have their city government represent them in there.
Yeah, so we would be, right now you have to get 10% of the validated signature, or 10% of your validated voters?
10% of the validated voters in that previous election. So with the mayor, for example, how many votes did they get in that election? Okay, you need 10% of that.
Okay, well, they're going to lower it to 5%, right? And then,
That's what the prop is stating, 5%. Okay.
So it would lower the threshold and extend the amount of time. So instead of 60 days, you'd have 120 days. I think they're going to double it. Yeah.
Right. So
that seems more reasonable,
very
more
reasonable
for us, the people, to come with things that we would like to do. Yeah.
And it's great that we have it here locally because we don't have that statewide. Right? That's something we don't have in Texas. Other states do. So I think it's something that we should not take for granted here in Dallas and make sure that it's actually usable.
What do you mean by that? In Texas, we don't have the ability as citizens to bring ballot initiatives?
Yeah, we don't have a referendum mechanism here. In other states, large and small states, says, hey, you want to put something to voters, right? Maybe your elected state legislature isn't doing it. Well, hey, if you can go out and get thousands of signatures from your neighbors and people across the state, well, then this initiative that you're arguing for, will now go to voters and they can vote and decide whether they want it or not. And that's something that, there's been groups fighting for that in Texas for over a century. And we're a holdout of a state that doesn't do that, so I do appreciate that we at least have it in theory in Dallas. And I think we should be expanding that, making it easier to use.
Yeah, it's a really good reason to vote for Prop I. Good deal.
Basically, just remember STU. They're at the very end. Yeah. Do not vote for STU. Seriously, this is like, Ken Paxton himself filed a legal briefing in favor of STU. These right-wing billionaires are bankrolling the campaigns for STU. This is Project 2025 at the local level in the city of Dallas, and we have to defeat it.
Wow, the wealth of knowledge Chris has.
Honestly, I'm still not over him telling us that Joe Biden was the first baby boomer senator. That just blows my mind.
It's incredible. Talking about a calling to serve, man. We also sat down and talked to Jasmin Flores from Dallas Dems about Proposition H.
Right. She even wrote an op-ed on the prop.
My ask is for us to vote in favor of the proposition. What this proposition does is it essentially removes the requirement for you to be a registered voter and a citizen to serve on certain boards and commissions for the city of Dallas. Now, this change has already been started. Most, actually, of the Dallas city boards and commissions do not have this requirement, and this change was implemented back in 2020. However, there are some commissions and boards that through the city charter have this exclusive language in them. There's not a lot of people fighting for roles on these boards and commissions, and many times there's vacant seats. So if we can expand that resource pool for, these community members that have the heart to serve, why not give them the opportunity to do so?
So recently I had a conversation in my DMs with somebody who's asking how these props that we've been asking people to vote against even got onto the ballot. They couldn't understand if the city council and the current and former mayors didn't want these props, how did they even get on the ballot?
Like we showed earlier, we had a conversation with David de la Fuente, and he can tell us about how this all happened.
So on Charter Review Commission, we looked over 125 proposals that we got.
May I ask, this commission that you were on, is that the commission? Like, that's it. There's not like 18 other different things that occur in other places that things come in. That's
it.
it. So
one commission. So
anyone who has an idea for things, submit it to that commission, a proposal. Okay. And then you guys review it.
It should have gone through us.
Okay.
And obviously council has the final say. The group that calls itself Dallas Hero that put STNU on the ballot completely bypassed Charter Review Commission and council, didn't want to submit it to us, didn't want to submit it to council, and just collected petitions. They went out there and got people to sign. And under state law, if you collect 20,000 valid signatures of registered voters in a city the size of Dallas, you can force a charter amendment on the ballot.
I didn't know they went around. Commission.
Yeah, they completely went around the normal referral process, which again, like I'm not saying that, we're the end all be all per se, but if there's already a charter review process going on that the city's putting on, to me, the fact that they bypassed us and bypassed council was because they knew that amongst 15 volunteers and 15 members of council, there was no way they could have gotten this passed because all of us were doing enough research and taking it seriously enough that, these proposals are such a bad idea that they wouldn't have had the votes. The mayor and all 14 council people are urging people to vote no on STNU.
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. Because even the police doesn't want.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So hypothetically, let's say they do pass. What happens if those pass?
At that point, it's a guessing game. Other cities have had not these proposals, honestly, less bad proposals than what we have. When you see people like former mayor, like Mike Rawlings, Ron Kirk, Tom Leppard, Laura Miller go out there and say that, STNU are the worst things they've seen in 40 years of their service, it really is bad. But there have been some other Texas cities that have had, arguably, things put in their charter that probably shouldn't have been put in their charter. Some of these other cities have had to essentially sue their own charter, get it through district court and see what Texas legal system has to say.
Oh, wow.
And that's probably, a potential next step if voters give, Dallas Hero what they want. But I do think that, really the point of these amendments, especially S&T, which are the ones that give up governmental immunity and screw with how the city manager and other senior staff are reviewed and potentially compensated and fired. I think those are really designed to bring the city government to a halt and make it not work.
Yeah.
My understanding is that no other American city has done what is in S&T. U has been done before. U is the one that mandates more hiring of police officers. That's been done in other cities. Some of these cities have repealed it after the fact. Some are actively trying to repeal it because, again, even if you want more police officers, which I think that there's a very strong argument as to why we would want more police officers, it's not really the type of thing that belongs in a city charter.
Exactly.
It would be like putting, in our federal constitution, like a $15 minimum wage.
Yeah, like specifying a rule.
Like the federal minimum wage does not belong in the Constitution. It belongs in a, federal law. I think that's generally why you see so much opposition to STNU versus, you take a proposition like R, which was the other citizen-initiated ballot measure by Ground Game Texas and the Freedom Coalition. The Dallas Police Department has expressed some concerns about it. Some people on council have as well, but it's just not viewed anywhere near as negatively as STNU. I think that there's a lot more, debate on whether R is, appropriate for a charter or what have you. But then with that one especially, I think just this being, the city of Dallas, we already kind of have a marijuana decriminalization through ordinance, and we expect the citizens probably will vote for it. And then at that point, we expect Ken Paxton to sue the city of Dallas, but our chances of winning are not terrible, honestly. So I think that that's why there hasn't been some kind of formal opposition to R in the same way as STNU, even though there are some concerns about it, because one, it's a lot less negative on what it means for the city. And then two, I think there is just a realization that people support marijuana being legal. And this is the best the city of Dallas can do as a municipality, as opposed to the federal government or the state government. So the city is going to work to make this work if voters approve it, which they probably will.
Well, hopefully folks have heeded our call on those last 3 bad props.
Should we remind everyone about all the props?
Yes, Lord. Okay, like we've been saying each episode.
Yes to the first 15, yes on A through R, and no to the last 3, S, T, and U.
Don't, say it with me, vote stupid. No to props S, T, and U. They snuck these on our ballot. Let's help them keep their hands off our city and head back to wherever they actually live.
What's a professional way to say to them? Stop this madness and get out of here.
Okay, I got you. Upon further review, we have decided to go another way, which is the opposite of where you would like us to go. But this is best for both parties.
Okay, that'll work. That'll work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's our show, everyone.
Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. You'll receive our podcast directly to your inbox, and our episode guides are available with more information, links to things we spoke about, and more on our guests.
Thanks for joining us, and remember,
Don't vote stupid.
Get Pod Local was recorded at Hello Studios in downtown Dallas.
A Trinity Underground studio production. You can find us everywhere you get your podcasts.
Episodes will drop continuously until we help retire Ted Cruz to his Cancun podcast studio.